If you have been using TanStack Start or TanStack Router in your projects, then this video is for you. So there's one feature that I have been sleeping on, and once that I figured out, I decided to just make this video because I can't just keep it to myself. And that is view transitions. Now, I'm sure you already heard of view transitions, but in TanStack Router, they're actually really cool to use. So this is, for example, an application that I built just for the view transitions. You have a home page, a blog, and an about page. And when you navigate from one page to another, you have this transition between the pages. The beautiful thing about this, well, first of all, it's all CSS. So there's no framer motion, no JavaScript library that needs to be loaded for this animation to be active. So very SEO friendly. You don't have to worry about client or server code. And the second thing is that if we take a look at the blog page, for example, if you're coming from the about page and you click on blog, the blog page itself is going to slide from the left. And if you're coming from the home page, this is going to slide from the right, which means you can do some really interesting effects depending on where you're coming from and where you're going to. A lot of cool stuff. Let me show you how the code looks like. I'm also going to put this code on GitHub, of course, if you want to just clone it or copy paste it to your project. And before we get started, I just wanted to mention that I have started a new newsletter and it's called TanStack Weekly. As the name suggests, this is just a newsletter for keeping up with TanStack because the TanStack libraries just get too many updates. And if you're not on Twitter the whole time, you're just going to miss on all of that. I have just published the first issue today, actually. So if you miss it, I'm also going to put the link to that. Otherwise, you can also just subscribe to the newsletter. It's free. Now let's get to the code. All right, so this is the project that we're working with. Let me open up the files. And here we have our source/routes folder. This is where all our pages are defined. And this is very straightforward since we're using file-based routing. So we have the index page. This is basically the home page. This is what is shown when the home page is clicked. Then we have the about page. And then we also have a blog page. So for the blog page, this is a folder and inside of it, we have the index file. And here we are showing the title and the blog entries. And here we are using this link component. And this is coming, of course, from TanStack React Router. Then inside our Slug page, we are also searching for the blog entry here. This is actually not that relevant right now for this example, but we also just show the blog content. There's a link back to the blog. First thing we need to do to work with view transitions, well, you have to define which part of the screen or your page you actually wanna transition. And for that, let's go to our root layout. So root is encapsulating the whole application. And here you can see we have this main tag, and inside of this, we also have a bit of padding. We have minimum height of the screen. And then there is this specific CSS property, view transition name, main content. We're going to come back to this right away. But what we are defining here is which part of the screen we want to transition. Because if you take a look at up here, we also have a header component. And inside the header, we have our navigation. So we don't want the navigation bar to also slide left and right. We just want the content of the website. Great. Next thing, let's move on to our CSS file and define some transitions. Of course, in this code example, I have already done this off screen. This is pretty tedious to do, to try to code from scratch right here, but you can just define some transitions. And here we have the first transition, which is slide left. Inside this transition, we're going to have two elements. We have the old element and then the new element. So the old element is the page that you're coming from, and the new one is the one that you're navigating to. And here we can just define how you want to animate it. For example, here we have the slide out left, and here we are translating X from 0 to -100, and we are also setting the opacity to 0. And this is the place where you get to be honestly just super creative. The sky is the limit. You can add some blur, you can do some scaling, some rotation, maybe add some cropping. Really, you can just get creative. You can implement basically anything you want here. And this is one of the transitions. We have transition to the left, which is called slide left. We also have the same one for sliding to the right. I tried to just use two transitions, and this is actually also the code example coming from TanStack that I have just adjusted a little bit. So now that you have defined your transitions, it's time to actually use them. And this is where TanStack Router really shines, because the transitions in TanStack Router are super easy to implement. If you take a look at the official documentation in the React page, you're going to see that Vue transitions is also there, but the API is a bit cumbersome to work with, and it's definitely not as easy as it is here. So in order to transition from one page to another, you should simply pass some parameters to your link component. And let me show you how it is. So if you go to our navigation component, and this is the header component, you're going to see that we have the links. And here we have, for example, the link to the home, and we can just define which transitions we want to have. And here we are just sliding right. So we're always sliding from the right side. And then on the other extreme, we have the link going to about. And here, this is the opposite. So we're always sliding from the left. And where this gets really interesting is when we're talking about the middle button, which is the blog. If you can remember, if you are coming from about page to the blog appears from the left. And if you're coming from the home page to the blog, you're transitioning from the right. And this is super easy to implement here. In the Vue transition prop, instead of providing an array, we can actually provide a function. And this function gets a lot of very useful parameters. And here we are using the parameter from location, and we are checking where are we actually coming from. Are we coming from the home page? Then I'm going to slide from the left, otherwise slide from the right. And if we control click from location, and you're going to see these are the properties that we are working with. Right now, for example, I have a small bug, because if you click on a blog post and then you click back on the blog, you're going to slide again from the right. We don't want that. So let's go back here and fix it. And here we can add another check. So if we are coming from /about, and this is, as you can see here, type safe. So when I start writing, it's directly suggested to me. Then we're going to slide from the right, and otherwise I'm just going to provide an empty array. So if you're coming from the home page, slide left. Otherwise, if you're coming from the about page, slide right. Otherwise, I don't want to slide at all. Now, if you come back to the example, when you go to the blog and you come back, we're not animating anything. You can maybe animate from the bottom. It's actually a good idea. Maybe I should have done that for this video. Anyway, I think you get the idea. Thanks for taking time to watching my video. If you have enjoyed it, please check out the newsletter and check out my previous videos as well. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.